But that's where we're getting. But anyway, I heard this story a few years ago, and I thought it really illustrated well what we're talking about, honor. There was an American minister that went to Japan to visit his friend who was a Japanese pastor. And while he was in Japan, there was a high-ranking government official there, a diplomat, that was having a state dinner and invited the Japanese pastor to his home, and he said, bring your American friend along. So they were very excited to get to go to this state dinner. It was a high honor, and so they went there, and they came to the door, and there was a lovely lady that met him at the door that was the hostess for the evening. And she brought them in and seated them and got them all, where they were supposed to be. But the American minister kept watching this lady, and she was probably in her 70s or older now. And he just could not get his eyes off this lady. He said she was the most graceful, classy, hospitable, just seemed like the perfect woman in every way, the way she carried herself and the way she acted. And he just kept watching her all night thinking, what an extraordinary lady. And finally he leaned over to the Japanese pastor and he said, who is this extraordinary, exquisite woman? Who is she? And he said, well, that's the diplomat's wife. She likes to host her own dinner. She doesn't like people doing it for her. She loves to do it herself. And he said, let me tell you an interesting story about these two. He said when they were young children, little bitty kids, they were raised in a real poverty-stricken little village in Japan. And he said their parents prearranged their marriage. They didn't get to choose each other. It was chosen for them. And so they began to grow up in this community. And this young lady, as she grew up, was not in any way by the community looked at as anything but an average girl. Maybe even below average, just, a regular girl in the city. Nothing special, nothing significant about her. And so that's how she grew up in the community. Well, while she's growing up, her groom is growing up too. And in order to go get his bride at some point, he has to have a dowry for this father. In other words, he has to bring a gift in exchange for the daughter, because a daughter was considered a great treasure that you did not hand off to someone easily. Should still be that way today. And so, anyway, this young man, and like I said, it's a poverty-stricken little village, so a young man like that has to work a long time to get money for his dowry. And the dowry in that little community was a cow. A cow was prosperity for the family. It brought prosperity to the family. You could sell it, or you can see why it would be. So anyway, he has to earn money to make money for his cow, to bring it to the dad. Well, if the girl was an average girl or below average, you brought one cow. If she was a little above average, maybe really special, could cook, and was a real good package, they might bring 2 cows. So he's got to work for his cow. So the day comes, he's going to go get his bride. He's got his cow, and he's going to go get her. Well, in the custom of this town was when the bridegroom was going after his bride, everybody liked to come out and watch, because it was kind of a fun thing for him to do as they marched down the street with their cow to go get the girl. So here they say, oh, here he comes. He's coming to get his bride. So he starts down the street, and he's got his cow behind him, trailing around behind him. And they, begin to look, and they said, wait a minute. And they started to count. They said, oh, wow, he's got 2 cows. She must be a little bit more than we thought she was, above average. He keeps coming down the street. They look, and they go, wait a minute. This guy's got 3 cows. Wow. She must be real special. He keeps coming. There's 4 cows. And everybody's beginning to come out now and go, who in the world is this girl? He keeps going down the street. There's 5 cows. He keeps coming. There's 6 cows. Keeps coming. There's 7 cows. Behind this young man was 7 cows. The whole city turned out and said, who is this? This is the 7-cow girl. She must be awesome. She must be amazing. What is it about her that we've missed? Now she's observing this. When this girl sees this, she begins to realize, hey, I'm not just an average girl. I must be special. It began to raise her thoughts about herself. It raised her thoughts in the community. The community began to look at her different. Everybody began to look at her different. But this is what this bridegroom was doing that day. He was making a statement. He was saying to his bride, I didn't get to choose you, but today I do. You know, most of us in here, we chose each other. And then we decide not to choose each other because we don't work hard enough to keep it together. But these two said, we didn't get to choose, but today we choose. We choose to make this marriage valuable and full of respect. And what he did, he was saying, you are my treasure, and from this day, I'm going to call you the 7-cow girl. And what that did, her belief in herself and how she felt about herself began to change and rise. And when what she felt about herself began to rise, then she began to have more respect and honor for her husband, and he rose. And it bounces back and forth, and they kept building each other up with honor and respect until one day they became heads of a nation. And that's the story of the 7-cow girl.